Great discussions that had you going. So let's look at that first question. How do multiple intelligences affect our classroom instruction? You guys had a really interesting point that, and not to say that nobody else had an interesting point, but I just happened to get kind of engrossed in their conversation a little bit. So could you guys kind of share what you guys talked about on that first one, the multiple intelligences, and how it affects classroom instruction or it doesn't affect?
Well, we basically mentioned that we're all aware that we have multiple intelligences in a classroom, but we're structured more or less, classrooms are structured where you tend to teach to the middle. By that I mean the majority. You're not teaching the GT students, those that are learning a certain way or the higher intelligence. You're not teaching to the lower students that need a different way to be taught. You're teaching to the majority of the students, which basically is the C and B students. That's what you're teaching to. So you're more or less, because of the tests and all the assessments, you're forced to do that because that's what they're going to be tested on, and majority-wise, most of your students need to be passing and so on. So you're more or less streamlining your instruction to certain needs instead of teaching to all the multiple intelligence. And we end up having to, for example, address the curriculum a certain way instead of what will benefit this multiple intelligence in your classroom.
Well, this is personal opinion. Let's say that here in this Western Hemisphere, where we call and we centralize education so much and learning and the competition of kids toward another kids and kids from here to teams outside with the teams and all this, they are concentrated, nothing else than in the test, that is a tax test. And so their teachers in general are obligated to teach a certain way, so they are not allowed to experiment with it. When they, in another places, and not just in other places, Roy mentioned here also in the United States and San Francisco, they have places where they allow the kids to develop the interest for education, where they go to school only to play and to learn social skills and learn about their capabilities until they are a certain age where they are ready to start to learn. And that's what they are using. But here in the United States, we are centralizing the kids and using their logical intelligence and maybe their language intelligence without developing anything else.
Okay, what he's mentioning is in San Francisco they have the Exploratorium. If you've ever been there, it's right below by Golden Gate and it's open to the public. Berkeley has a program where they take the pre-kinder, the kinder classes, and basically their schedule, I think it's like once a week or something like that. They play like from 8 to 12, but they have, for example, a model of a human ear the size of this room. The kids play in it and so on. They're actually learning sound, energy waves and so on while they're playing, and then at the end they're asking, well, how do you think this works? They have all the answers because they actually participated, went through the years, saw the part and so on, and that's what I'm talking about. They have a program that teaches certain things about science through play, and that's what we're talking about as far as how you develop the multiple intelligences, different ways, not the classroom that we're used to and we're stuck with here.
Okay, so the second question, do you believe multiple intelligence are addressed with our current curriculum? They kind of touched on that. Was there anybody else that wanted to add to that? That somebody in your group brought up a really good point about maybe that we don't? Does anybody want to comment on their current curriculum? I can speak from personal experience. Just, you know, because I started with the district when it was scope and sequence, and then it got moved to curriculum guides. And I have to be perfectly honest, came off of a firm believer in multiple intelligences. So for me, to hand me a script and say, this is what you need to be doing day one for 30 minutes, I knew, and I believe, you know, Teresa might have made the same comment, this is not how my kids learn. This is not the way I was structured in my college to teach other students. I was used to, when a principal came into my classroom, you know, there were stations, there were kids interacting. It was, I mean, first row at a rock concert, but they were learning. There was noise, and there was constant noise. So to give me a script and to tell me you need to teach this by this was very hard for me. I was one of the non-rule followers in school because I can pretty much say I can almost bet 90% of the time I was not on that curriculum guide. And so then people start, how do you get away with that? Because you're supposed to have your I can statements, your teaks that you're addressing for the day, your objectives, and I still have those. And we were still hitting those. It just didn't look the same way that it did in the curriculum guides. Or the classroom before, or the classroom right down the hallway. It just looked a little bit different. You saw some of the same elements. I still followed the same framework. It just didn't, the activities were not the same. And I'm sure a lot of you probably do the same thing. You adapt to what your kids need. And so a lot of times that means that we're not right there on week 2, day 2, 30 minutes of spelling instruction.
See, bottom line, I think Stephanie's correct. As long as you end up with the test scores that are required,
right.
They're not going to make a big thing about it. They might address it, but if you're meeting the objectives and your kids are scoring where they should be scoring on the test compared to the other students and so on, the administration is not going to make a big wave about it. They might mention it because some other teacher came and said, hey, they're loud all the time and so on, but they're not going to knock you.
Right.
If your class are the highest averages or your class are meeting expectations and so on, they're not going to knock you.
Yeah.
But
well, my frustration with it is that they don't measure where the kid was at when he came to you.
exactly.
They only measure where
That is true.
They come in 2nd, 3rd grade level, reading level, and then they're in 6, and they blame you like, hey, this is a freshman class, and you only got them at 6. Hey, look where they were.
Yeah,
You're right.
they were at 3rd, right.
Right.
I had a kid come in this year that wasn't talking, so definitely wasn't reading. And they said he was MR and all this, and I'm going, no, he's not. And there's something behind there, I can tell. And sure enough, he's already been retained once, but he's reading. Now, is he going to read at 2nd grade level and 90 words per minute? No. But where he was at and where I got him to, he read 33 words per minute yesterday. I was impressed because this is somebody they said wasn't going to be able to. And so, he may be MR, but at least, he's developing.
Right, he's being successful, and that's what we all want. We want
But
our
then
kids.
they want you to turn around and fail him because he's not meeting the criteria. I don't think that's right. That child is not failing. He's being successful for him. And then you're going to measure me.
But now the schools have committees, for example, if they're not reading at 3rd grade level, they're supposed to be held back if they don't pass a certain test, right? 3rd grade, 5th grade, and so
It
on.
wasn't until this year.
Okay, but if they have too many of them, they're going to have that committee that says, well, they're close enough, let's pass them on and so on, and you inherit those. But you're right, they don't take that into account. Look at the students, see where they were.
I think they do have to look at student growth, and I think you have to quit testing kids over and over again when you know where they're at and keep telling them that they're failing, because then you're not.
They end up giving up, yeah.
They'll give up, they'll withdraw.
And I'm sure one of the things that you did was you differentiated, you adjusted. And we all probably do that without even really calling it that and knowing it, because I've seen some of Camilla's students, and I know that's what she does in her classroom, and that's just the way it works. Okay, it is 10:20, and I promised you guys a break at 10:15, so I'm going to break us. We're going to come back and hit right into differentiated instruction.